Spooky, atmospheric music begins, then fades slightly into the background. Have you ever walked down a hallway at school and felt a sudden, inexplicable chill? A feeling like you're not entirely alone, even when the halls are empty? For some students, that feeling is more than just imagination. It's a daily reality. Today, we re-diving into a story that will make you question every creak and flicker in your own school. This is the story of the haunted Morrow Middle School. Imagine your school wasn't built to be a school. Imagine it was once a grand, sprawling mansion with a long and storied past. That's exactly the case for the students at what was once known as the Morrow Estate. One former student, Sam, shared her chilling experiences from her time there. The old mansion was repurposed, its elegant rooms turned into classrooms, its grand staircases echoing with the footsteps of students instead of socialites. But some things, it seems, never left. The most notorious part of the school was the third floor. This area, which once served as the maids' quarters in the old estate, had a particularly heavy and oppressive atmosphere. Sam described one specific hallway up there where students would consistently feel a strange, suffocating sensation, as if the air was being squeezed from their lungs. It wasn't just a draft or poor ventilation. It was a palpable presence that made even the bravest students hurry through, their hearts pounding in their chests. Of course, old buildings make strange noises, but the things that happened at Morrow Middle School went far beyond the usual groans of an aging structure. Lights in empty classrooms would flicker on and off at night, witnessed by custodians and late-working teachers who could find no logical explanation. Heavy classroom doors, which were supposed to be shut and locked, would be found creaking open on their own, revealing the dark, empty rooms within. It was as if the school itself was alive, breathing and watching with unseen eyes. But Sam's most terrifying experience happened one evening after school hours. Fueled by teenage curiosity and a dare, she and a few friends decided to trespass, to explore the school when it was completely deserted. They wanted to see for themselves if the rumors were true. As they crept through the silent, shadowy corridors, the familiar building felt alien and menacing in the darkness. They made their way up to the dreaded third floor, the air growing colder and thicker with each step. They stood in the suffocating hallway, their flashlights cutting nervous beams through the gloom. At first, there was nothing but silence, the kind of absolute quiet that makes your ears ring. But then it started. Faintly at first, then growing clearer and louder, a sound began to drift through the halls. It was the sound of singing. Not just one voice, but a full choir of children's voices, their melody echoing from somewhere deep within the school. Sam and her friends froze, their blood turning to ice. They knew the school was empty. There was no choir practice, no one else was supposed to be there. The singing was ethereal, beautiful, and utterly terrifying. It didn't sound like it was coming from a speaker. It sounded live, as if a group of children were gathered just around the corner, singing their hearts out in the dead of night. They didn't wait to find out who or what was singing. They ran. They scrambled down the stairs, burst through the doors, and didn't stop running until the school was far behind them. To this day, Sam has no explanation for what they heard. There was no choir, no radio, no logical source for the sound. Was it an echo of the past? The spirits of children who once lived in the mansion, their voices trapped in the walls? Or was it something else entirely? The story of the singing children became another legend whispered in the halls of Morrow Middle School, a chilling reminder that when you walk through a place with a past, you might not be walking alone. What do you think they heard that night? Let me know your theories in the comments below.
Did you know your school might have a dark secret? I'm talking about something way more sinister than just that weird smell in the chemistry lab. This story comes from a Reddit user who went to a very, very old school. We're talking ancient, with buildings that have seen generations of students come and go. And according to the legends whispered in the hallways, one of them never left. The story goes that years and years ago, a female student was tragically murdered right there on school grounds. The most horrifying part? Her body was hidden, and for a while nobody even knew she was gone. They say her spirit, lost and restless, now wanders the corridors of the school's oldest building. Most students just laughed it off as a spooky campfire tale, something to scare the new kids with. But one group of friends was about to find out just how real the stories were. It was a Friday evening. They'd stayed late for a project, and as dusk settled, a sense of adventure, or maybe just foolish curiosity, took over. The old building, usually locked up tight after hours, was their target. They managed to slip inside, the air immediately feeling heavy and cold. The silence was deafening, broken only by the creak of the ancient floorboards beneath their feet. They explored dusty classrooms, their phone flashlights cutting through the thick darkness, feeling a mix of thrill and unease. They were just starting to think the rumors were nothing but that, rumors. And then it happened. With a loud, sudden clank, the entire building plunged into absolute blackness. The power was out. Panic started to set in. They huddled together, their flashlights now seeming ridiculously small against the overwhelming dark. A strange sound echoed from the end of the hall, a soft, dragging noise. They froze, listening. Then one of them let out a small gasp. His flashlight beam was shaking as he pointed it down the corridor. In the faint, dancing light, they saw it. A figure, standing just at the edge of the darkness. It looked like a girl, but as they squinted, a wave of pure terror washed over them. She was wearing an old-fashioned school uniform, but her face was wrong. Where her eyes should have been, there were just dark, empty sockets. A silent scream was frozen on her lips. For a moment that stretched into eternity. Nobody could move. Nobody could breathe. The air grew impossibly cold. The figure didn't move, just stood there, a terrifying silhouette against the gloom. Then one of the friends screamed. He yelled that something had grabbed him. He swung his flashlight around, and the beam caught a glimpse of a hand on his shoulder. A hand that was pale and deathly, with long, jagged nails caked in what looked like dried blood. That broke the spell. Pure, animalistic fear took over. They didn't wait to see more. They turned and ran, stumbling over each other in the pitch-black hallway, their hearts hammering against their ribs. They could hear that awful dragging sound getting closer behind them, a sound that would haunt their nightmares for years to come. They finally burst out of the old building's doors and didn't stop running until they were in the safety of the well-lit main campus. They were a mess, bruised, scraped, and utterly terrified. The friend who had been grabbed had deep red scratches on his shoulder, raw and bleeding. They could never explain what happened that night, but they never set foot in that old building again. Some stories, they learned, aren't just stories. What do you think? Do you have any spooky stories from your own school? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me for this chilling tale. I hope it didn't give you too many nightmares. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the world's most terrifying legends. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a spooky experience in an old building. Stay safe and see you next time.